Check, 1, 2. All right. I think we're ready to roll here. All right. There we are. Hello. I thought I had a fade programmed into that so it would look really nice when you just a little crossfade sort of thing. All right.
I still think you should move the screen
What do you mean move the screen?
to where it was before.
Oh, yeah, like switch it around over here. Okay, yeah, all right, fine.
Thank you.
That's what we'll do. All right, a little more sensible now. Okay, so we'll put this screen over here. All right. Now, we did not discuss for this show what we were going to be doing on it. This is the roughest of rough reports, because usually leading up to the show, there's some solid idea, but I feel like both a lot and a little have been going on in the media recently,
Yes.
right?
I mean, for starters.
Like the tariffs, like, up and down,
But on top of that.
Oh, yeah. U.S. removes commander in Greenland
Yeah.
following Vance's controversial visit. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one that I want to talk about.
Okay. We could cover that. I have a couple things queued up, mainly to do with the fact that the election is in 2 weeks.
Yes.
Just a day over 2 weeks. 2 weeks tomorrow.
April 28th. Yep.
Yeah. So I have a few things surrounding that pulled up, interesting topics there. But the only thing I can think of, like, news-wise is just like everybody's anxiety over the tariffs, which I think, just to put it in a nutshell, if it isn't obvious to everybody at this point, pretty sure it's a market scam. Like they're making a killing off shorting these markets and stuff like that, right?
At least a market scam.
Like if
that's
that
not
wasn't the
say-
intention from the onset, it's definitely a benefit that they're yielding,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. And it's just so patently bonkers because, obviously U.S. leadership and Trump and his administration are doing it for no good reason and to the bafflement of everybody around the world.
Yeah.
And, it had come out recently that his entire premise of doing a trade war with China came from asking back in 2016, because Trump had no economic advisors yet. So he basically said, Jared, go out and find me an economic advisor. Jared Kushner is his son-in-law. Go out and find me some economic advisors that are going to, speak to my tough guy taking on China kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And
predictably, he found the biggest shill out there.
Oh, yeah. So, basically, Jared, in all his, professional skill and wisdom, went onto Amazon and just looked at some book titles, and it was captured by Death by China. And the author of that book, I forget the name now, but it basically, he repeatedly cites an economic expert named Ron Vera. And the author's last name is Navarro.
Yeah.
And Ron Vera is just an anagram of Navarro. It was a made-up guy. Basically, it was a completely fictionalized guy, so this guy could sell books about xenophobic hysteria.
Honestly, it's so
it's
on
so
point that
exactly.
You can't, truth is stranger than fiction. This entire administration, this entire timeline is bonkers.
Yeah.
And the deeper you dig, the deeper you dig, it's just like this fractal of fuck shittery everywhere. Just clown shoes everywhere. The honking is deafening.
Yeah. It's all quite silly. And then there's the unexpected pushback from here. Let's pull this up here. Okay. Woo! Hello. Forgot that I had switched those around. Yeah, I'm gonna I actually have to do this until next episode. Sorry, that was weird. All right. Okay. I forgot that I had my screen capture like that. Here we go. Okay. So U.S. removes commander in Greenland following Vance's controversial visit. I don't quite know the details here. So what is it? Colonel Susanna Myers, commander of the Pituffik Space Base in Greenland. I do not presume to understand current politics, but what I do know is the concerns of the U.S. administration discussed by Vice President Vance on Friday are not reflective of Pituffik Space Base. She was removed with the comment, actions to undermine the chain of command or to subvert President Trump's agenda will not be tolerated at the Department of Defense. When high-ranking military people are willing to sacrifice their careers to protest the MAGA monocracy, the USA has a serious problems on its hands. Maybe Colonel Myers will cross the border at Hans Island and defect to Canada. Okay, so I guess the commander in question was an American.
Yeah.
This space base was an American base in Greenland?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, and so just making sure that cronies are positioned everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So not even commanders sitting in Greenland are safe from being ousted if they don't toe the party line. I suspect it has something to do with, Trump's comments on annexing Greenland. But we're just in the fractal of stupidity.
Yeah, it's really quite something like that. I don't know. Anybody can observe what's happening like this, even just this sort of goofy stuff that seems like it may or may not be actually consequential to politics. It's just kind of like goofiness like this. Just removing a commander at a space base because she had pretty mild criticism, the mildest of criticism.
And that's the thing, is that this based on who they've got leading the Department of Defense, there's just no room in this administration for any criticism, and just it just gets starker and scarier and weirder and stupider by the day.
And the only thing I can think is this absolute fear of any criticism.
Yeah.
Can only say that the foundations are shaky, right? Like they're ideological, or I guess logical, because they're ideologues, I guess, through and through, you could say. But their logic behind enacting what it is they want, all of it is so illogical that it crumbles easily under any honest scrutiny. And I think they're pretty aware of that. That's the only real reason that an administration like this would want to crush any kind of questioning dissent. It's not that it's like a misinformation. It's not that they're telling lies or telling slander. It's just that, no, you're not supporting our efforts through and through. How dare you question anything?
Yeah, if you're not 100% in, then you're on the out.
Yeah.
We can't have anyone in any positions of power to potentially challenge and try and...
and that's the thing, how Trump is such a weak little man, right? That's the thing. These guys always need to project that they're strong without actually doing things that are demonstrative of that strength, right? Of that competence, of that, it's just bloated, vapid, bravado nothingness. Yeah. It's so hollow. And that is what is confusing to me on this subject I'm going to transition to next here. about the CBC recently put out this video about how young men today are swinging conservative, which is
so unlike the past.
yeah, like
Conservatives have never been led by young men.
yeah,
So I wanna be able to
yeah.
do it.
So
I
here
wanna be
I got this video queued up here. So yeah, like it's a trend that's suggesting that young men are going conservative. And the reason for that, like they're gonna, we'll unbox this as we go through it, because this is a CBC video, so of course CBC trying to just very much play a neutral part in telling the story and asking the questions, and of course they're not going to say any commentary about whether that's good or bad, and things like that. They're just going to observe and get people's reactions. So it's up to people like us to sort of dissect this and look at it and try and understand it. And I think, like everything I just said about the fundamental weakness of these supposed strongmen, because they can't handle criticism, they avoid it at all costs. They avoid being questioned. Pierre Poilievre, like, now already has a reputation for avoiding questions, especially ones that aren't, pre-prepared and pre-packaged for him, which was a tradition that Stephen Harper followed.
Yep.
And Stephen Harper, was notorious for avoiding media and
muzzling his cabinet.
and muzzling his own cabinet,
Yeah.
and muzzling dissent within his own administration. Nobody
Yeah.
could question things,
Yeah.
And so all this stuff about, free speech and stuff, obvious protection. These guys have never cared about free speech. Like, be freaking real. They have done everything to demonstrate that they cannot do it, including, the silencing of anyone in position of authority or influence around them that could say, hey, wait a minute, maybe this isn't a great idea.
Yeah.
No, you're gone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Up to and including destroying scientific evidence. Just not even deciding not to publish it, destroying it, so that they couldn't be used in the future. That's very That's a very cool legacy of the Harper government.
Yeah. So it's pretty bonkers.
So the video?
Yeah. Sorry, I was just like gathering some thoughts here.
It's fine.
Sorry,
Just
it's
take
just
your
like
time.
it was like Vietnam flashbacks. Yeah, so let's get to this video. We're going to go into the big screen view here. So
And by I haven't watched this yet.
I watched like most of this. Just like the last couple minutes. I was like, okay, I get the idea. I know what I want to discuss. But so we'll go through this. And like the thing I got to say, like right off the bat, like an observation, like just looking at the screen, this way this person is like looking and talking and acting like at the camera. I don't mean to sound like a jerk or something right out of the box here, but there's something about the way you see some of these young guys talk that's so disingenuous. Like there's something like behind it that it's almost like it almost feels like a sneaky game. They're trying to con you. They're like the young men themselves are like in on the con. It's like some sort of wrestling kifabe or something like that, and because there's something like that. Just like even this little clip you see at the beginning here of this young man talking, it just doesn't feel like he's being real. It feels like there's a bit of an act here. Maybe that's just like my bias or something, but take from that what you will. Yeah.
I want to have my traditional values. I want to be able to be a man. I want to be able to be masculine.
The voices of a new generation of conservatives.
They continue to vote liberal. They continue to elect a socialist government that takes our money, makes our decisions for us, and ruins our country.
Okay, and then
takes your money and make decisions for
Hi,
us.
Jess.
Yeah, that's a government. That's all government.
Yeah.
We can't have individuals in a 30 million plus people country deciding everything individually.
And that's the thing, like it reveals itself right off the bat here, the kind of hollowness of all of this, and that they say things like this, we keep electing these socialist governments. First of all, that's just factually incorrect. I'm sorry. That is factually incorrect. The most liberal of liberal governments are not socialist. We have never had a socialist government in this country. Tax and spend liberalism is not socialism. These things, the words have meaning. And so they just say these buzz terms that aren't real and then go, we keep electing these governments with their liberal agenda and it's ruining our country. Do you understand how vague that is? Like, oh, it's ruining our country. How? What part of it got ruined? What are you talking about in particular?
What part about socialism is the ruination?
Yes, exactly. It's all this sort of surface level, vibey nothingness. It doesn't actually speak to a need to know things, and have genuine concern for things. It is a base selfishness, me. And that's what it boils down to. It like when you're saying like, I want to be a traditional masculine man with traditional values, you want society to cater to you to such a degree that you don't actually have to, be social, be pro-social, like, engage with women maybe like they're people. And treat them like human beings. No, you want to be a traditional man and own her like a piece of property, perhaps.
And like, some women, are being indoctrinated into trad wives, so like they're out there.
Yeah, and believe me, the next segment I got lined up is going to speak directly to that as well.
I just want to quickly say hey to Jess. When Trudeau wasn't a dictator, when he had a minority government.
So the country is fine. I don't know what that question means.
I was going to go down to that.
What you have to understand there is, again, this is all surface level. Oh, so the country is just fine. You're not speaking to any issues. You're not speaking to anything concrete. It's all very vibey.
But also, like, of the ways that the country is not fine, what has socialism done to make it not fine?
And in what way do you think it's not fine? Like, what are your concerns? You know, because a lot of people are wrapped up in a lot of more culture war type of concerns, which don't affect anything really economically. And I find a lot of these conservatives, young men, sort of like bob and weave in between those two lines of thought and don't really have like a united kind of like concept.
Especially for the guys who are like, I want to, be a masculine man. Who's fucking stopping you?
Yeah.
Go be masculine.
People are masculine all day, all the time. I work with and talk with and engage with masculine men.
Like, are you afraid you're going to get
they don't feel threatened, and so, anyway. So, continuing on.
They're young, male, and frustrated.
We're at a moment where men and women are moving in opposite directions.
A trend happening in some of the world's biggest democracies.
CBS News exit polling finds that the president-elect won white men under 30 by 7 percentage points.
In Germany.
The far-right AfD is the winner among young men, while a large number of young women chose the left party.
And in South Korea.
The frustration and anger of young men in this country, whether their opinion is right or wrong, is palpable.
In Canada, young men are now an integral part of Pierre Poilievre's base.
The extent to which the coalition has changed, I think would be very shocking to people. It's very, very young.
Carney's not here for you. He's here to put Canada last.
Okay. So even just like there, Carney's not here for you. He's here to put Canada last. And even just saying, the frustration of modern life. Again, this has been no actual issue has been said or mentioned so far.
Yeah.
Right? And we're 1 minute into this video and it's so far just like pure vibiness. Now this guy is now going to break down some statistics. Let's get into that.
Canadian politics has changed a lot in the last 4 years. Like, check this out.
In the 2021 federal election, polls suggested that about the same number of young men and young women voted for the Conservatives. But today, things are way different. That's an 18-point gap. And pollster David Coletto says that gap is growing.
Have you ever seen support this high for the Conservatives among young men?
Not in my career. It is a new phenomenon that we are seeing such a divide that the demographic most likely today to say they're going to vote Conservative in our polling are men under the age of 30. That is a complete change to at least the last few decades of Canadian politics.
In the last 3 federal elections, voters under 30 were more likely to vote for either the Liberals or the NDP than for the Conservatives, which kind of fits with the stereotype of young people being more progressive. But around the time Pierre Poilievre became the Conservative leader...
See, again, like don't worry, we've successfully ruined that. And I think, like, there are deeper reasons for this that isn't necessarily being discussed. Like, here, let me just go back so I can hear what he said again. Speak more direct. Oh yeah, like the stereotype. That's the word I wanted. The stereotype that young people are just more progressive. It doesn't get it all into the reasons why that might be.
Like, especially because historically, also statistically, the youth were doing better than their parents. And so when they're young, they're idealistic because things are going well. But fortunately, we've destroyed all that progress, and so young people are doing shit.
Yeah. And
not just young people, but just because they're talking about young people.
Yeah, exactly. I understand.
Yeah, but you know.
They understand.
We're talking to.
You're all
folks,
smart out there. So the stereotype that young people, like, I think, like, a lot of the reason for it comes down to like the economic stability of those previous times, or what the future might have looked like, what politicians were putting forth on the table, what issues were appealing to young people, and why were they appealing to them. All sorts of things like that. I think the idea that young people are more, like, if you want to talk purely like on the culture war end of things, the cultural or social aspect of things that are less the economic, you could say, young people are probably just psychologically more apt to be progressive than, like, they're not as concerned with tradition because, they haven't been alive as long. What is tradition? So far, their experience of tradition is boring stuff. They want to cut their own path. They want to find their own place in the world. And that kind of, I think that sort of attitude speaks to that. But anyway, that's all kind of, like, besides the point. Let's go a little
likely
further.
to vote for either the Liberals or the NDP.
Oh, if you haven't talked about it yet, I'd love to hear your thoughts on strategic voting or smart voting.
Haven't talked about it yet.
We can get to that, absolutely. I think we should probably get to it sooner than later, like, rather than, our next show, which is going to be the day before the election.
I mean, we'll touch on it both times.
Yeah.
But, I think
then
that
for
we'll
the
touch
Conservatives.
Which kind? I think we'll touch on it largely next time. Because, we'll miss the boat on, folks who do the advanced voting. But also, by that time, we'll have polling that's, right closer for the folks who vote on the day. And also, we can bone up on our numbers a bit because, we didn't prepare today.
Kind of fits with the stereotype of young people being more progressive. But around the time Pierre Poilievre became the Conservative leader, Gen Z men shifted their support to the party. Jeannie Roth was Poilievre's director of communications on his leadership campaign.
What's changed is, as young people are increasingly unhappy with where they sit in the world because they don't own homes, because they haven't been able to start families, because they feel like when they take public transit it's unsafe. Increasingly, those young voters are open to voting Conservative.
Boomers don't actually give a
fuck. Okay. This guy is very annoying, let me tell you right off the bat.
It's okay, he looks annoying.
Very, very punchable face. Okay, so they're responding to the economic turmoil. Again, none of this has talked about any policy so far. We're now 2.5 minutes.
We've started to touch on constructive concerns.
Like housing. Yeah, okay, we're getting a little narrower. But again, what about it? Like, what about liberalism, like the Liberal Party or liberal policy has particularly caused this issue? They haven't gotten into that yet. Again, very vibey, not like when did this happen and how did this happen at all. It's just like this is all very feelings-based, right? And I think it's important to sort of highlight that point. Anyway, like when you get on the bus and things are unsafe, it's always felt that way. I don't know if you've ever taken public transit before, but taking public transit,
I mean, it's gotten worse. It has gotten worse. But
with the
because
increase,
everything has gotten worse.
yeah, and again, I'm trying. I'm
Okay,
trying to avoid getting into certain talking points until we reach a certain point
so
of the
I'll get
video.
to them in advance for you. So basically, as we see all of these basic human needs not being met, we visibly are going to experience the repercussions of extreme poverty and ill mental health more regularly and more starkly.
Poverty exasperates crime.
Yeah,
simple as
such
that.
As worrying about safety on the TTC and worry about seeing drug addicts everywhere. That has everything to do with
absolutely.
the social fabric breaking down, so that people are homeless and addicted and don't have places to go to heal or even to be in private to partake of their drug of choice. And so when we're talking about closing safe injection sites, that's only just like trying to hide one more symptom when the entire system is sick. And so all these visible evidence of the sickness are now coming to fore. And so now people see it, such as on public transit. Go ahead.
Here we go.
Lying fudge about the future generations of Canada.
Adam Beattie is a conservative influencer from the Vancouver area. He posts under the name Robin Skies on TikTok, where he has nearly 180,000 followers. Beattie voted for the NDP in his first federal election in 2015, but he eventually turned to the Conservatives because he felt they were more responsive to the anxieties of young men.
Like, again, what does that? They were more responsive. Like, what does any of that mean? There's no meat and potatoes here, right? It's all very vibey. So yeah, like I just feel they speak more to and there's obvious, and I'm sorry, I got to criticize somebody who can go from the 2015 being NDP to now and being conservative. That is a wild,
leap of a decade.
Yeah, exactly. Like
steps.
it just tells me that on a sort of a political science and ideological sort of level, you're just inconsistent and don't really have any values perhaps outside of what are you going to give me and what makes me feel good and satisfied right in this moment right now.
Now I will harken back to something that I have been saying for billions of years, including back when I was working for nonprofits in the middle of the 2000s. Yes, there is a serious dearth of supports for men out there. And so one of the things that has happened is the rise of toxic masculinity influence, social media influencers such as Andrew Tate, speaking adeptly to the specific types of concerns that men have without offering them solutions. But this is something
it's certainly exasperating their problems, like saying, I see your problems. I'm not not going to necessarily get into the socio-political implications of where those problems come from because they're not knowledgeable on those subjects to be able to do that.
No.
So it's got to be all vibey and it's got to be all angry and it's got to be the easy targets.
And so, if there's someone who's finally speaking to you when you feel unheard, but it turns out that it's fascists, but you also don't have media literacy, then...
you kind of end up like this.
Why do you think conservatism now is appealing to young men in a way that maybe it hadn't before?
Because we're on the front line of all the crap that's going on.
Beattie says he moved out of downtown Vancouver.
Sorry,
again, we're on the front line.
You're fine.
Well, it's true. That's kind of always the thing with the people who are college age and entering the working world for the first time. They do very much feel like they are on the kind of front lines in that way. And I get it. They're trying to get on their feet and build themselves a life and want to feel like there's a future there. So it does feel like a front line for them. And that's perfectly fair. But again, we're the front line on all this crap that's going on. There's all this crap that's going on. What's the crap?
But also,
but there's all this crap going on.
Yeah, but also, the amount of self-centeredness to think that you're the only one going through crap.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, and so I know that this sounds like, what I was literally just talking about, like, men have no problems. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And men do have problems, and
Yeah.
we don't adequately address them.
Yeah.
So my initial reaction is just, kind of indicative of the whole issue. But at the same time, if one has friends who don't all look like them, then they have better access to realize, oh, we're all fucked.
Yeah.
like,
We're all going through something, and this is why I think it's important to like sort of highlight, like, and continuously point out, like we're all going through this, but like, what is it that we're going through? What is the issue that you're talking about? Not this just like, oh, everything sucks and it's bad and the conservatives are going to make it better. How?
Yeah.
What way? What are you speaking to exactly?
Yeah.
A lot of this stuff is conveniently avoided, and it's just vibes-based politics, and I'm sorry, it's hollow. It's hollow. You got to have a slightly deeper understanding than that,
For the love of
right?
Christ,
So let's continue on and see if it gets any more revealing.
Because it was too expensive and because he was assaulted.
But having like a crazed person who's clearly high on something attack me, call the police and have the police look at me and say, there's nothing we can do about it. Yeah, that's a radicalizing experience.
Again, that's a radicalizing experience, is it? Again, we're not speaking to any particular policy which might have caused that. It's just, I moved out of Vancouver because it was expensive, and I got assaulted by a guy on drugs once. So did I in downtown Hamilton, when Stephen Harper was in charge. So I don't know what you're trying to speak to exactly here.
Yeah, and also like,
and again, the cops never did anything. They never found the guy. The cops didn't call me back. So, like, to me, in a leftist perspective, I hear that and go, okay, like the slashing of public transit funding has been an issue. Yeah. That's conservatives' governments doing that, by the way. The fact that there aren't safe injection sites, that's conservatives who are at fault for the lack of safe injection sites. The cops are underfunded, like they can't do their job. No, the cops are
ineffectual.
They're ineffectual at preventing crime.
But also,
that's not really what their job is, to even like prevent it necessarily.
No.
It is to prosecute it when it happens.
Yeah. So I want to read that comment from David from Carney's book, Values. Western society is morally rotten, has been corrupted by capitalism. This requires,
I have to hop on this.
This requires rigid controls of personal freedoms, industry, and corporate funding. This is, I don't know what the rest of this is supposed to be.
That quote of Carney's, fake. It's not a real quote. You find me in his book where that quote is. Show me the page. Yeah. Show me the passage. Yeah. It doesn't exist. You found it on like some Canada Proud or Ontario Proud right-wing bubble, and you decided it was true, but it's not. It's made up nonsense. That entire quote you just said was entirely made up. And because I'm someone with media literacy, I read that quote and immediately knew it was fake, because I'm like, well, Carney's a diehard capitalist. He's all in for the capitalist thing. Yeah. He would never say something like that. That seems fundamentally goofy. And then you try and do any background research on Googling this quote and where it came from, you very quickly find out it's completely effing made up.
So David's response, not a promise to make the lives of ordinary people better, but temporarily worse. This is will be a world of severely constrained choice.
This is a complete quote that is nonsense. It's completely faked up. I know it is real. No, you don't. No, you don't. You are making it up because it is an entirely fake quote. You guys are living in some insane alternate Fox News constructed reality. And if you had the sense, it would be embarrassing. It would be embarrassing.
Yeah, but also, we're supporters of like the NDP and Singh. So
yeah, and even then, I am willing to criticize the things that I think Singh have done wrong and the policy choices that I think he is failing. You do not have the book.
I would love if you.
You do not have the book.
I would love if you would
show me. Open the book.
Yeah, take a picture.
Turn to the page. Take a picture. I'll hop on a video call right now with you. Show it.
Oh yeah, let's trust Carney. Who's trusting Carney?
I'm not necessarily saying to trust Carney. Yeah. Okay, you know what? Let's just say yes. I'm a communist. Sure.
Yeah.
Like you think anyone to the left of hunting homeless people for sport is communist? But that's besides the point. You don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That like have something of substantive value.
But also
talk
like,
about an issue that's actually real instead of something that's entirely made up by your right-wing weirdo media sphere bubble.
Yeah.
You are the ones in the bubble.
Yeah.
It's
but also
quite obvious.
Has a communist party ever actually run Canada?
No communist party has actually run Canada.
Really? You sure? What about Trudeau? I heard that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Apparently, he's a communist. Yeah, we're living under. We all thought we were going to be in the communist dictatorship. That didn't happen. Carney took over, and because of the way Carney took over, every little weirdo right-wing Facebook page that you weirdos live on was like, "Oh, he's going to be permanent dictator forever. The election's off." That's obviously not happening either.
That's not
so
how Canadian politics
everything
works.
that your entire understanding of reality is just bonkers. It's bonkers.
Net zero. Do you know what that will lead us?
What are you talking about? that is a bunch of words that is meaningless to me.
Okay.
Man,
you know what?
This is why I had to delete Twitter off my phone, because I find you idiots so delightfully entertaining that it's distracting.
But you know what's also great? You know what? I'm here to find out, right?
Yeah.
Fine,
go on into the net zero weird conspiracy thing that you decided is real.
Let's go full fucking communist.
I don't know what he's talking about. Yeah.
Let's go full fucking communist.
Sure.
We've gone full bore capitalists, so
I mean, like this guy here's willing to dive headfirst into fascism over vibes. Yeah, I am smug because I know what I'm talking about and you don't. Aw. Jesus Christ. Yes, you deserve to be treated with smugness and contempt when you're on this chat spreading a quote that is so not real, and then you say you have the book, which you obviously don't. That's obviously such a freaking lie. And now you probably feel, even though you're like an anonymous dude on the internet, you feel a little embarrassed by it, so you're like, you two are smug. You're so mean to me.
I think we've made a friend.
God. Yes, please come back every week so I can do this to you constantly.
We might have made 2 friends. My heart grew 3 sizes that day.
It's just so goofy. But again, let's get back to this guy again, which is he, as a conservative young man and not a grifter, we're assuming that he's going to talk about real issues and what the liberals did to cause these problems and maybe what conservatives are going to do to solve them. Maybe we'll get to an actual point here eventually. Let's find out.
And the only people who are capable of living life without having to face that, frankly, are an older generation who live in protected neighborhoods, who
I don't know, the old people in my life
when those neighborhoods were inexpensive, and who continue to be shielded from the reality that's going on that's being caused by these liberal policies and ideas.
Again, being caused by these liberal policies and ideas. Which ones?
Yeah, okay.
Which
so,
ones?
Like, I'm not,
what are you talking about?
I'm not going to shit on his idea that the older generation who actually have housing wealth.
Yeah, who actually have money. Because I know plenty of the older
retired.
Generation who are freaking destitute and have nowhere to go. There's lots of that too. But,
I mean,
so what you're talking about is a class issue, not so much an age one, right?
I mean, it's a bit of both. So for me,
there's a bit of a lineup between the two.
For my particular family dynamics, so I've got a massive bloody family. I've got 21 first cousins, and there are huge disparities in wealth because some family members, born in the 50s or 60s, were able to get themselves into great careers, get housing, get retirement and pensions. And so, they're set. And then I have other family members who weren't so fortunate because, for example, growing up in, northwestern Ontario, various things happened. Like some family members, they were living on a uranium deposit and had to move, but they lost the value of their house because of that. So that fucked them over economically. And so it's just, in my own family, I have these vast examples between being well off and not from that particular age group he's talking about. A lot of them still were able to access and purchase houses, which is in my generation And James is only 5 years younger, his generation, and now down to my youngest niece, who's 18, her generation. Housing, like being able to buy, being able to have that kind of stability of having an actual, what's the difference between a liability and asset?
Yeah, there we go.
See, that's where financial.
We only know liabilities.
We know
assets. The hell is that?
So, like, I'm agreeing with him on the first part, but then he completely goes off the rails and doesn't understand. What
Again, like
happened.
it's all about these liberal policies that did this to us. Again, vibes, nothing concrete, and this is what you have to pay attention to. This is how you even begin to understand, to have the media literacy, to know how you're being fooled, to know how you're being tricked, and then you be led down these false paths like David in the chat here is, where he's just echoing stuff he saw in right-wing Facebook pages or whatever, and it's not, you know, they're not fact-checking this stuff, right? So, you know, yeah, you got to be able to pay attention to that. He just keeps saying, oh, these liberal policies. That's all they keep saying. But also, none of it is concrete,
but
right?
At the same time, they think liberal and left are the same thing.
Yes, which is, it's not. I can tell you that right now. Yeah. Liberalism is a centrist to right-wing frame of thought. Mm-hmm. And like anything, like actual leftist politics is to the left of that. Yeah. Oftentimes liberals are to the left of conservatives. Yeah. So when you're talking strictly the difference between those parties, if you want to say that's what the right and the left is, whatever. But it's not really a great representation.
Yeah, so please don't use liberal as a
well,
synonym of left.
And that's the thing, Jess, in the chat there. People would rather appear smart than actually be educated, because people would rather feel satisfied than do something to gain that satisfaction. And that's why kind of like AI has become sort of the pseudo language of the far right, and they're constantly using that sort of stuff to, like, you know, make their memes, make their messaging, make fun of, you know, queers and all sorts of things, using that stuff, because again, it's pure satisfaction with none of the skill, education, time, dedication, none of that involved. And I'm not trying to be like elitist when I say this, because I grew up poor. I didn't go to college, but you know what I did do? I wanted to know things, so I read. That's what I did. Yeah. And I was willing to accept that some of my assumptions about the world may be incorrect, and I was willing to adjust them with further gaining knowledge and research and things like that. What these right-wing guys seem to want to do is just to go inside their safe little spaces, their safe little bubbles, and hear their own voices echoed back at them, and so they can all nod at each other and go, yeah, exactly. That's why everything sucks. It has to do with things that aren't me at all. And you know, to a certain extent that might be true. But again, what are those things? Let's get into the details. Let's discuss the issues. But none of these guys seem to want to do it, because remaining in the vibosphere is just easier, you know?
And here's the thing about what a lot of the manosphere dudes ignore is that part of self-improvement is being wrong a lot. Realizing you're wrong a lot, but then
being able to sit with that discomfort,
but then
you know?
not wanting to be right in terms of like needing other people to validate and count and, you know, bow down to you. It's just you know, realizing that you're not correct because you've been given new information, and then wanting to be right by changing your point of view based on new information, right? And so with, you know, the scientific method is basically trying stuff out. If you find out they're wrong, then you change your mind and you change your hypothesis. But
can't believe someone quoted that, like, jeez, that fake quote that I've seen going around. It's so laughably obviously wrong. Again, like, you don't even have to look at the book to look at that and go, that's definitely not something any liberal capitalist dude would ever say.
Yeah,
that's especially if they're have some sort of political ambition, right?
And it's also kind of speaks to what's happening right now with the
Yeah.
Trump administration of this is not a promise to make the lives of ordinary people better, but temporarily worse.
Yeah. That's literally what the Trump administration is telling their people right now with their far right policy. Yeah. They're like, oh, it's good that you're losing money. Yeah, that's what. Yeah, actually losing. Like, what was it? That far right kook Benny Johnson, literally looking in the camera and going, you know what? Actually, losing money isn't that bad for you. Hilarious. But anyway, let's keep going and see if, again, we're still straining. He hasn't hit a point yet.
Yeah, let's see.
We wanted to get a better understanding of when this gender gap began to emerge. So CBC News analyzed data from the Canadian Election Study, a comprehensive survey run by political scientists before and after elections.
The data suggests young men and women once had similar attitudes on questions about whether more should be done for women. But by 2015, their views began to diverge. The same goes for what should be done for racialized minorities. And recent polling by Abacus Data suggests that young men are more likely than young women to agree trans athletes should not be able to play on sports teams, and are more likely to believe there are no longer significant obstacles to women getting ahead. Coletto says young Canadians do
What that translates to me is they've just been completely soaked in right-wing propaganda. That's what that, like, right-wing propaganda is very well funded, like, because it's all the richest people that always funds the most far right of ideas because it's within their interest. Oh, lack of corporate regulation. I don't have to spend all this money to make sure I'm environmentally friendly and my products are safe and I'm not going to harm people, X, Y, and Z. Oh, that's fantastic. I'm going to throw all my money at that type of politics. I'm being very simplistic in that, but that is essentially the long and short of it.
But also because we have a lot of and again, my word is okay. You can interpret the word that I mean because we have like singular examples of like exceptional examples of people from various backgrounds being successful. Then that means that such and such is over. Because the U.S. had a black president, racism is over.
Yeah.
Because Oprah Winfrey was a billionaire.
Another example of racism and sexism being over.
Then that's over. Because yada yada person was able to be successful. That means that the structural problem is over. And that is such surface level thinking of like representation.
It's magical thinking, really. Like it's
like representation only does a tiniest part of it.
It's like seeing a hole in the ground and going, well, that must go all the way through the earth. You know?
But also it's like I've been seeing coming up, memes of like, back in the 90s, you don't understand. Racism was over because there's family TV shows like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, The Cosby Show, Living Single, yada, yada.
Yeah.
All of these shows address the racism
that they were experiencing. I distinctly remember a really good episode of Fresh Prince where Carlton was pulled over and if unfairly, he was unfairly racially profiled and he was being forgiving of the police. Oh, they're just doing their job and all this stuff. And it was his dad who was like, no, you let me tell you what just happened, and he's the judge, right? And so, this stuff is not new. Like woke isn't new. It's just the new terms that they use so they can be vaguely racist,
Not so vaguely.
Or not so vaguely. Racist with like this shred of plausible deniability.
Well, it's like it's the same thing as when they started calling things political correctness, right?
It's repackaged that.
It's all the same thing. They're just trying to figure out ways of calling people the N-word without saying the N-word.
Yeah, exactly. So
they're also still doing and feeling more emboldened to do, and also sig-hailing, and so like everything's against us.
So and then they were getting into analyzing this statistical data in that video. But again, you're not like these concerns of young men, everything that they're saying, it's like they're real concerns. But again, where those problems come from and how to fix them aren't addressed. It's purely like, well, the liberals did this. And it's like, what exactly are you talking about?
No one got offended in the
No one got offended in the 90s. You are out of your tree. That is so
charming.
funny.
I'm
hilarious.
I'm betting that this person was born in 2001.
It's so hard to tell. It's so hard to tell because like there are so many like Gen Xers that I've talked to that sound exactly like this. But I'm sorry, that's delusional.
Yeah.
The number of jokes that I can think of from 90s television that make fun of people being sensitive, being politically correct, even at that time. So people got offended. Like it's oh my God, the flood of Simpsons jokes and references I could think of right now that speak exactly to that.
I can't tell if you're saying that you are 70 or born in 1970.
Are you 70 years old? And you think no one got offended in the 90s? Did you forget the 90s?
Amazing.
Did you just forget them completely? Oh, Jesus Christ. That's wild.
Maybe
people got so offended that the president got a blowjob from somebody that wasn't his wife. It was treated with more scrutiny than, actual traitorism, 1970. Okay. So you're
old enough
15 years off of being
so you're old enough to have eaten lead paint. All right, cool.
Are you my dad?
Oh shit, you gotta go, Tim. You've been your daughter found you. All that delayed child support is gonna be coming due.
Yeah. So so this guy was he lived through his 20s in the 90s. And so, like, everything when you're in your 20s, like television and cultural-wise, is meant to feel like it's being directed right at you, because it is. That is a precious demographic to people. And, I think there's maybe a little bit of bias wrapped up in that.
And some nostalgia, too.
In nostalgia. Yeah. Well, the nostalgia bias, I can think of way too many examples of how that's just plain not true. But anyway, I want to get into this last video because I think it's a little bit funny. We may only watch a few minutes of it, but this is
I haven't seen those.
Canada's election and Catholic concerns, and I think this is funny in some ways and kind of aimless in a weird way. Like the way the video starts and then what it gets into is kind of strange, but like I don't know what Catholic news coverage, I don't know, it's a bit weird. So let's see. Here we
President Trump's unjustified tariffs come with threats to our sovereignty that have one goal behind them: to weaken Canada, to break us so that America can own us, to take our greatest strengths, our resources, our water, our land, our country. That will never happen.
We need a new conservative government for a change that will axe taxes, greenlight construction of homes, mines, pipelines, LNG plants, bring home our...
We need a new conservative government that'll do all these things for a change. What, the thing that every conservative government ever has done?
Well, except for bringing home.
They didn't. Harper didn't so much build homes, but he did literally all those other things.
But also,
and axing taxes, what has that yielded us? Exactly.
It means that you can't pay for things such as public.
It cripples
roads,
the government,
transit,
makes it unable to work.
Yeah. So cutting taxes when you don't have other income just means that you can't pay for the things that benefit society at large.
Exactly. And the less of that money there is, the more dysfunctional government and social systems become. And as they become more that way, the worse they look. And then conservatives look at that going, wow, my God, that's so dysfunctional. We should take more money away from that.
Yeah. But also, Trudeau bought a fucking pipeline. So, like, to say that...
You're watching it. What a dumb podcast. They said, you just came here to be an angry conservative, and we welcome you. Again, you're not going to talk about any issues because you don't have any.
What if we lose our sponsors?
Oh, yeah, all our precious sponsors.
Oh, no, we need to cut this short right now and delete all these comments, or else our sponsors will find out.
Like, subscribe, and share. Get all your conservative friends to join in the chat so we can make fun of them week after week. It will do us a tremendous favor.
They're here for a laugh. Well, good.
Yeah, so are we.
Yeah,
that's beautiful.
Be entertaining.
Again, like, there's never going to be any discussion of any real issues because they don't have it.
Yeah.
It's all vibes.
For jobs, so that we can reinforce our economic fortress against the Americans.
Part of the
okay. Reinforce our economic fortress against the Americans. Again, that is a phrase that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't speak to any meaningful policy and how the policy he just said is going to stand up towards tariffs. It doesn't meaningfully address anything.
It doesn't say that we were going to nationalize manufacturing in this country to ensure that we have the products and the jobs that we require. Nothing about what honestly, nothing about what Carney or Poilievre. Like, I'm not saying that either of those statements came with solutions. But just, be aware that there are functional, tangible things that we can do about these that largely have to do with nationalizing and other communist scary terms in order to make sure that our access to supplies, access to groceries, and access to good paying sustainable jobs are available to regular Canadians who have economic concerns.
Right.
Calculation for voters in this election is which candidate can best stand up to threats from the Trump administration, and from a Catholic perspective, which candidates will stand up for Catholic values.
What do they mean by Catholic values?
Okay, I'm gonna jump in for 1 sec. Is it just me, or does that little yellow thing on the flag look like Trump's hair on top of the? Is that on purpose? Is that supposed to be Trump's hair?
No, it's because the logo for In Depth here is this little yellow thing. I think
okay.
so. It's just the motif. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Anyway.
Reporter Mark Irons spent last week in Canada to bring us this election preview.
Are Catholics in Canada experiencing a crisis of faith?
People do not really express their faith openly, publicly, certainly not Catholics, which is a major challenge for the church. Why is that?
And
y'all are a bunch of pedophiles who fucking suck funds out of your communities and then send them overseas.
Well, like, not only that, like, as I understand, Catholicism, it's not necessarily supposed to be a big hoopla, right? Isn't it supposed to be a little reserved? Isn't that the idea?
Jesus thing. The whole thing Jesus was about was, just talk about your religion and practice your religion in private.
Yeah, it's a very
God knows,
personal thing.
It doesn't have to be a big public display.
Yeah,
but the Catholic churches are all about God.
Yeah, so like, I don't know, Canadians having Catholic Canadians having a crisis of faith. I don't know. Like, is that any different than any other time? I don't know. It's very strange.
And how is it impacting the political life of the country?
I do go to church, but I have to say it doesn't really influence my politics. A lot of the traditionally contentious issues within faith communities, like things like same-sex marriage or abortion, Canadians, I think, by and large, consider those issues settled.
So-called settled issues come...
So, again, the Catholic issues in question are just same-sex marriage and abortion. And it's like, these are things, I'm sorry, that aren't even really Catholic issues. Let's be honest. It's a modern invention of Catholic sensibility to be overly concerned about this.
Your boss, the Pope, has spoken basically for such things as birth control and same-sex marriage. Like, not in, he hasn't come out as, being gay and like going to pride parades, but the popes of the past few iterations have been more liberal, and I'm not going to say left.
Yeah,
been more
liberal in comparison to
because they
years
understand
prior.
where the bread is buttered, and that's by making sure that they have as many people to give them money as possible.
God, Tin Man comes in with another banger. Sharia law. We're going back to 2001, folks.
Yeah,
2001 racism now.
I'm worried about Shania law. I'm worried about Shania Twain taking over the country.
We're fear-mongering about Muslims now. Are you serious? God. You couldn't be so far, like any further up your own ass in the conservative weirdo right-wing biosphere. It is so
But also,
goofy.
like, if you're worried about Sharia, I'm not actually sure how to...
Sharia.
Is that?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway.
And a part of Sharia law is actually explicitly said to obey the laws of the land that you're in. So like the entire, like you don't even know what Sharia law is. It was a scary word that you heard as an excuse to be prejudiced towards Muslims.
Yeah.
It's goofy. It's goofy.
And here's the thing: in a secular society, law should be based upon what is responsible and positive for the majority of constituents in a secular society.
Yeah.
And so I don't give a shit about what the Catholics want or what the Muslim faith wants. I care about what actually constructively supports everyone. Yeah, you two are great regardless of our differences. We are great.
Well, like I know that I can't say the same about you. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You might be great for a specific use of ours, but great overall.
But also, like, yeah, I miss the 2000s as well. You know what? When I was with my ex-husband in 2004, we purchased a 2-bedroom bungalow in a military town for $67,000. I miss that because oh my god,
I gotta actually
I'm
fix that one of these days.
Because I'm leaning on it, I'm flipping a table. I miss the 2000s too because that was the last feasible time I could even consider that I might one day become a homeowner. Whereas now, there is no way. And like I understand a lot of it was because of me moving around and such. If I'd settled in one place for the past 20 odd years, I could have a house. I could be suicidal and I could make everyone else around me miserable by being stuck in a loveless marriage and taking my frustrations out on everyone else. But instead, I don't have a house.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, like, I just wanted to get through that because it seems like the extent of what the Catholic issues are just like the right-wing fear-stoking that the evangelicals have done in the United States for ages that stoked the whole thing about reversing Roe v. Wade. It's the echo of that same political sentiment coming into Canada, which is something you can always set your watch by. Every time something like that happens in the United States, you're going to bet within the year or two it's going to be a major Canadian talking point because a lot of the same right-wing money that gets those wheels greased down there are the same ones up here.
Fortunately, we are a separate culture. Like I have American friends. We're different from Americans. Like we just culturally we are, and it is
a lot of similarities, but yeah.
Sure, but from Canadian media and such, you would think that we're like really the same. But if you spend as a Canadian, if you spend any kind of time in the States and vice versa, you realize that like we have sincerely different values. And that is one of the things that is actually protecting us from going full bore into Trumpism. And some people do because I can't save us all, but we have enough of a difference in values and in culture that folks have rejected some of those parts, right? Like I think us having established universal health care and so understanding from a generational standpoint how transformative and informative that has been in how we are able to choose our jobs, how are we, whether or not we go into debt. The fact that, yes, for some things, Canadians still can go into debt for medical expenses. Like, let's say that, you get cancer, but you had a shitty job and
you're still expected to go to work when you have cancer. So if you have like excellent benefits with like long-term disability, then that might not affect you as much. But if you're the average Canadian who's working on minimum wage and you have cancer,
then yeah, you still might fucking go bankrupt. And
Yeah.
so we haven't fixed everything.
Yeah.
But God,
There's a few things we have in place that make it a little more stable for sure. And I just wanted to get into, like, just to speak to some of the issues going on, like that might have like young men swinging more conservative, let's say, and they go, well, I'm worried about housing. For example, and you know, Pierre Poilievre, he's talking about housing now. His plan for housing to simply just build more and remove red tape, which is kind of concerning because I mean, slap chop housing development has been a problem in the past.
I don't want my house to mold and fall down around
Yeah,
me.
exactly. So that's a little bit concerning. Like, how fast are you building these things? Yeah. But that's besides the point. He's at least speaking to building homes, which is something that through the past number of years of Trudeau, he's failed to address. Yeah. Trudeau and the Liberals have over their tenure, like after they took over after Stephen Harper, failed to meaningfully address the housing crisis. Yeah. They knew it was it was a problem then. They knew it became a bigger problem, and they did nothing to meaningfully address it. Mm-hmm. So to feel that, and then hearing Pierre Poilievre going, well, housing, that can seem like they are speaking to an issue, right? Mm-hmm. But the plan to simply build more doesn't work on its own. Yeah. The thing you have to do when it comes to regulating that is you actually have to fix the inflated pricing in the market. Yeah. And a while back, while Trudeau was still prime minister, this I think about a year or so ago, he was on a CBC podcast, which and they asked him about this, and he said, the problem is that the older generations, the Gen Xers and the Boomers, have basically their entire nest eggs in their houses, and to slash those prices to fix pricing from the point that it's at now means taking that retirement money away from them. Yeah. And I don't want to do that. And I thought, you son of a bitch, the pricing is inflated. Yeah. Even if you cut it in half, they're still getting an incredible amount of investment value there. Yeah. The problem is it's inflated. So yeah, he was too much of a pussy to do something meaningful because it was going to take away those huge nest eggs that some people had. But it's like, I'm sorry, if you want to supply something to future generations, you have to take some of the inflated, meaningless value in these properties and get rid of it.
And the problem of them relying on the property as a nest egg is because the Social Security that senior Canadians get is paltry.
Yes.
And so fix the Social Security,
and again,
then we can make that the nest egg.
Let's point out that making the nest egg not Social Security and making it your house is distinctly a right-wing economic policy. Yeah. Trudeau was in favor of that economic policy, which is absolutely political science-wise right-wing policy. Yeah. If he wanted left-wing policy, it would have been to bolster Social Security, increase that amount of income coming into these retirees. Yeah. Taxing and funding social systems would be more of a left-wing move than the thing he was actively doing and promoting.
Which was like nothing about the house.
So when you conservative idiots out there are going, oh, you're such a communist, it's just like, what the fuck are you talking about? Honestly.
Yeah. Like, I would support actual communism.
Yeah.
But we know that that's
but that ain't an option. That's on the table.
It's literally like even actual literal socialism isn't on the table for Canada.
Like even what is it? Like Nordic socialism, which is still liberal capitalism, just with a lot more social funding and aspects to it, a lot more worker-oriented policy, let's say. But still, it's capitalist. We don't even have that. Yeah. Right? So
we just have a bunch of
it's
petro
delusional
and mining companies in a fucking trench coat running this country.
Yeah.
Anyway, I want to eat dinner.
Yes. So we've already gone well over the hour. Thankfully to the people joining us in the chat and keeping us engaged there. We will be back next week.
Not next week.
Oh, no, not next week. Yeah, we're taking next week off. We're on vacation. It's our anniversary. Yeah. So we're going to be doing that. But then the day before the election,
April
we will be
27th.
back. April 27th, we'll be back, and we'll talk about the strategic
past the post
voting
and
and all that good stuff.
We'll come prepared for that conversation.
Yes, yes, we'll actually have things written down. So yes, thank you so much once again for joining us. This is the Rough Report theme that I wrote and recorded myself. If you want to check out more original music, I'm on Spotify, Tidal, SoundCloud, all the places you can hear that stuff. And also I'll be playing Capital Music Week, the inaugural Capital Music Week, May 22nd at the Rainbow here in Ottawa. Looking super forward to that. And as always, stay rough.